Good morning, friends. So, we have been going through a lot the past few weeks. A lot of cleansing has been happening, a lot of understanding, a lot of clarity, a lot of revelation and understanding. The pain that I felt yesterday morning was unbearable, and the moment I sent healing energy from us, Jesus, to send healing energy to the person speaking, I was cleared. The pain just went off and the whole day went smoothly. But last night, again, when I listened to the video from Sacred Inspirations, again, I felt the helplessness that came through in the first few minutes itself. So I shut down the video. I downloaded the transcript and I wanted to understand the feeling because I was not able to listen to it even for a few minutes because of the energy, the painful energy that was coming through. Probably the person speaking was processing a lot of pain, a generation of pain of that collective in that place. So it was unbearable. So I had to switch off and read the transcript. I read the transcript. By the time I could came to the end of the transcript, I realized the shift that he was speaking, the shift happening within him, and how he was processing it. The, the, the immensity of processing that pain was felt in the voice, and it came through, literally came through. And yes, you have the language is an expression, and in the community where you belong, it has a way of choice of words in expressing that shift that happened. If today morning I once again listened to another video of the success of having processed that pain. In the process of last evening means it was almost late, somewhere around 8 9 maybe, for in India, and then this morning when I listened, so it showed 4 hours before, so it could be early morning. That video was released, so it showed the success of having processed that pain and what emerged from that pain. So it helped me in processing that pain at the physical level more easily. So I'm just fascinated by this whole process of your understanding, the depth of your understanding, at least at the not at least at the physical, at the emotional, and now at the energetic level, how you could bring that shift into manifestation. So this morning I was wanting to speak on a different subject. Let me begin with what I wanted to speak. It is with relating to one what I have mentioned in my own book, where Jesus said to one of his that how often we have observed people talk ill about others, talking about the bad qualities of others, gossip, and spreading discomforts of our own brothers and sisters begets those very bad qualities to multiply within us. So Jesus said to one of his disciples, if one of our brethren was asleep and the wind had blown his garment away, what would you do? So one of them replied, we would cover him. Another he said, no, you would rather expose him further. They cried, God forbid that we should act in such a manner. But Jesus replied, but it's the same when you hear a word against your brother and carry it to others. So here is where you multiply the pain instead of healing it. So here, so when we find that's about criticism. But then why do we even entertain? Why have we been entertaining that pain for so long? Because is it because we were tolerating it, or is it because we were submissive to the hierarchy which wanted to maintain that pain? That's the way the business or economy also has contributed in sustaining. That is, most of the medicines will maintain your disease. It will not cure it completely. It's only maintenance. Blood pressure, you will never be able to do away with blood pressure. They will say you have to eat it lifelong if you have to maintain your blood pressure in balance. So that is maintenance of the disease. So almost everything has been centered around this maintenance of the pain rather than relief and overcoming it. It's not because we have not understood what is causing it. We are very well aware. And it's also not because we are not able to do nothing about it. It's because we enjoyed that pain. Let me bring that out to you. Some patterns there are some patterns, and I noticed that in my own family, particularly my father. He enjoyed talking about pain, and he enjoyed the pain. I felt how he is able to enjoy that, means he literally wanted to keep on dwelling on that pain. When you want to dwell on pain, that means it's giving you some satisfaction. So here some of the in the chapter 13 where I have mentioned is, what is it that prevents us from expressing an higher and more sublime qualities is the limiting pattern that we ourselves have cultivated to survive in difficult times, or to attract love or respect that we desperately desire to have. So let us, some behavioral patterns that sustains that pain is I have to appear rich, strong and intelligent. Otherwise, I will not have the respect and adoration of the people. So you'll go to any extent to even undergo pain to maintain that appearance. If I'm not respected or admired, I feel unimportant and worthless. So you will even borrow to spend. That's how debt increases. I want to appear superior and saintly so as to gain the approval and acceptance of society. So you go to temple regularly, or put on certain garments of certain marks, and means you externally exhibit your religious, while religion or spirituality is a very personal thing. If it comes out into the open, it comes as a overflow of the internal. It's not that you externalize it and it will start manifesting within yourself. It's an much ado about nothing. I prefer to be aggressive, critical, rebellious and stubborn, as otherwise I will feel vulnerable, powerless and controlled. The macho man kind of a thing. You want to exhibit aggressiveness. I want to be possessive, as otherwise I feel rejected and neglected. Unless you want to show that you are possessive, that is over speak or over engage in acts or actions and even speech whereby you show that you are possessed, you want to be possessive about a person because it exhibits your you feel you want to exhibit your love or your attachment to that person. Otherwise, you will feel that you're rejected, that the person is rejected or neglected. So to maintain that facade, and this is but this has revealed more of aggressiveness, means in solution to this has resulted in aggressiveness rather than addressing the problem of absence of love. I prefer to be unemotional and unavailable, as then it gives me a sense of importance and pride of appearing to be busy and in control. I have to appear miserable, angry, helpless, lonely, or unwell if I have to attract the attention of someone. Most of the time, it's just like little children saying, "My stomach is paining because I don't want to go to school." Mommy will say, "Okay, don't go to school." So that in order to, it is built up from there. From there itself, you start getting, when you start getting results, success at your putting on appearances as showing that you're suffering, then it gets carried in adulthood, because habits die hard. I like to be independent. I like to appear independent and desirable, as it gives me security, admiration, and a sense of being powerful. So this also is when it is carried to an extreme, you don't know how to ask for help. I have faced it in the sense that I have not been able to ask for help, maybe, but for me, it has always been a negative reply, or that person would just disappear from my path. Maybe that was divinely ordained, so I stopped asking for help. But in most cases, we want to appear independent, so we don't ask. Like you maybe I've noticed people driving on and on a road where they don't know exact location of your destination, and then you don't even ask for directions. That once you want to independently arrive at that place with the address on a piece of paper on hand, without the GPS. Of course, now the GPS is there, which again takes you in circles many times. Then, if I appear to be wise and right, I can attract trust, security, and submission of people. Being obeyed, accepted, and looked up to is more important to me than being compassionate, caring, loving, and responsible. So if I appear to be wise, then you say that he has the authority, so he's able to get away without, even if he's not compassionate, he can get away with it. That gives a permission to be rude. A paternal or a maternal or a dominating demeanor makes me feel included and loved, and this is more important to me than being natural, dignified, sincere, and honest. This we have seen everywhere. I try to conform to what is normal in the society, as I do not want to be unloved, excluded, unwanted, or rejected if I try to be different. This has often resulted in problems, and so we would rather avoid than get engaged. So when we observe these patterns, what we need to do is prevent ourselves from expressing it the next time. But then we are so caught up with these patterns that it becomes a kind of a conditioning, out of the clutches of which we are not able to come out of it. That's why the term habits die hard. You remove H, a bit remains. If you remove A, bit remains. If you remove B, it remains. So that's why we are unable to come out of that, unless it is tackled at the energetic level. So we need to remove it at the energetic level for the results to be permanent. So that is why I found that particularly in regards to these kind of helpless patterns in the emotions, or in where you're helpless and helplessly suffering the pain of others, you need to remove the source at the source. That is at the energetic. It is at the energetic where it gets registered, or it could be even coming from the past, that we are carrying it generations after generations. In fact, that was a reason which made me probe into my very name. Why is the name Saraswati itself causing so much of pain to the person who is having that name? It's not only me. It's been in India. We have several people who, in fact, the parents avoid giving the name Saraswati because most often either they are they don't have children, or their marriages fail, or they commit suicide. In fact, even big saints who have had their wives, saints means in India even rishis used to marry. It was not that they were not allowed to marry, they had children also, and it was a householders. It was only after you have crossed all barriers of desires, you have overcome all your desires, then with the agreement of the wife, along with the wife, you may go into vanaprastha ashram, that is in the forest, or into where you want to devote your entire life to study of scriptures or into spirituality. Then you go together. Or if the wife wants to stay back because of some reason, that's also permitted. And for adopting a sannyasi, that is a saint, to become a sannyasi, you have to take the permission of the wife. And unless she consents, that it means that you still have, she has a hold on you, or you have a hold on, there is some, so you can't, if you go against that many times, you may not be successful. So there are circumstances where you may have to come back. So when you adopt a sainthood, that's full and final. So when you're taking up the sainthood, that is, you have decided to entirely devote on your upliftment, your evolution. So it is then you follow certain various disciplines, and you cannot mingle with, means there are certain, like there are certain rules which I wouldn't like to mention, which is not necessary to be mentioned here, but then those are disciplines, just like how you have your priesthood who follow certain disciplines. So it is easy to succumb to these patterns when we come across circumstances which induce or which instigate those kind of reactions. Then we are helpless unless and until energetically it is removed. But then I felt why I was feeling it even at the even others' pain. So here is where, when you evolve at the collective, when you evolve to be inclusive of the collective, we feel the pain of others. That is what I found reflected in the speaker. I don't know from which country he is speaking from. I don't know about his name, but I could connect the pain that he was going through. And this pain, particularly now at the heart level, it has reached the stage of the heart chakra. That was the pain where it was being felt in terms of unable to, that is where you're not able to, where you have been surrendering. That is, you've given to the atrocity, to the subjugation of the authorities, of the other people, of their influence and such things. So why this has been happening was another revelation this morning. That is because Sri Rama, that's another very recently, you must have heard in the news that the Ram temple that was built at Ayodhya, it has been looted, and all the money has been taken away by people, by thieves, or by fraudsters, by whoever it is. And so it has caused a lot of heartburn. And Sri Rama, there's another book that I have written on incarnations, why the divine incarnates. And Sri Rama had incarnated. Now Sri Rama's the Ramayana, as it is generally believed, is about 8 to 10,000 years ago, but it was actually happened in the 24th Chaturyuga, in the Treta Yuga of 24th Chaturyuga. So it was about 40,000 years ago. We are in the 28th Chaturyuga. Chaturyuga means a year, a time period of 12,000 years, where the first 4,800 years is Kruta Yuga, then Treta Yuga is 3,600 years, Dwapar Yuga is 2400 years and Kali Yuga is 1200 years. So, this like which I mentioned in the last session, how the smaller yuga cycles, chatur yugas, which are called this, it was divided, the Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga and Kali Yuga, after completing the Kruta Yuga of the cosmos, that this period was divided into kalpas. There are 14 kalpas, and out of which there are these chatur yugas are there. Sorry, there are 14 manvantaras. In that, there are these chatur yugas which are 71 or 72, which becomes about, when you multiply this 12,000, it comes to around 1008. So for an average, if you take 1000 chatur yuga, 71 or 72, so it becomes equivalent to 100 years of Brahma's lifetime. So we are into the 28th Chatur Yuga, the Kali Yuga of 28th Chatur Yuga. 24th Treta Yuga was where Sri Rama's incarnation took place. And in that incarnation, Sri Rama had come to open the heart chakra of the cosmos. So before that, most of the people, human beings, were more of animal man. Animal man in the sense they were more like hunters, more of, they were, if you remember, Sri Rama was considered Purushottama. The means in that period there were god men, that is human beings and gods. There was movement in the earth between the various realms, but among human beings, just human beings, Sri Rama was the incarnation who was born to open the heart chakra at the cosmic level, so that the heart chakra of all human beings will open up. Now he was considered a Maryada Purusha. Maryada Purusha means one who followed certain disciplines. That is, he carried disciplines to so much of an extent that he saw to it that he was the ideal person whom humanity would emulate. So that is why even he is worshipped as God in India and elsewhere in the world also, because in those days probably the continents were not so wide apart. Then at that time, he had to go through a lot of suffering of his father, of his ancestors, because his father Dasharatha had engaged, he lived for 60,000 years, Dasharatha, and he had fought wars for the gods. So he could go to heaven and fight the war on behalf of Indra. He took his army and fought the war for Indra. So that was a different time period. But then all the suffering and pain, like he had promised his wife that because she had also gone to the war, and she had in that wheel, when the chariot was, they would go in the chariot to fight, whether it was with the sword or whatever. So in that, the wheel had slipped, and the cog in that wheel had come out. So she held her finger in that cog and she held that wheel together as he fought. So after that fight was over, when Dasharatha saw how much support that Kaikeyi had given in that war, in fighting, in enabling him to fight, to succeed in that war, he said, I'm giving you 2 boons, ask for it whenever you want. So that is how she asked for the boon to that at that time they had no children. In fact, Dasharatha did not conceive at all. So then he had performed a yajna, and the fire god brought a kalash or a bowl of sweet rice, which was shared among the 3 wives for progeny, so that the lineage would continue. So, but the eldest wife had a child. She was a daughter, and so that daughter cannot become a king. So, in the, but and she preferred that daughter. She preferred to marry a rishi, and she went to the forest. So then, there was no progeny, and so this was arranged, and that's how Sri Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna were born. Now, Bharata was the son of Kaikeyi. Rama was the son of Kaushalya. Now, Rama was the eldest, and because Kaushalya was the first wife. So, in that way, although it was from the same yajna, she was the first wife, and so Rama was the eldest, and but she wanted, Kaikeyi asked for her boon. Some putting gossip or some instigation by the servants, she was made to realize that her son was not getting the crown, and so she asked for the boon, which she remembered of that war fought with the gods, and she asked that Rama should be exiled for 14 years and Bharata should become the king. Bharata, of course, he refused, and he worshipped the sandals, and placed it as though he represents sandals of Rama, the Paduka of Rama, and as a representation of Rama himself, and he ruled the kingdom and living the same lifestyle as that of his elder brother. So this was the story of Rama, and so Rama had to process a lot of pain, and that pain has been holding on to us, and that is what was cleared now. And that's what that person, whoever it is, I would like to know that person, because I couldn't bear that pain, because yesterday I mentioned also, my soul was speaking through him. So so that pain, a generation, yugas of pain, you can say, got clearance when he understood and he could put it in words, which was what was today released from Ascendancy Frequency channel. A beautiful masterpiece of a talk which cleared the pain in the heart chakra at the collective level through a mental understanding, through a critical understanding process, rather than, yes, it helped in energetically. So as he speaks, he mentions the energetic shift that has happened, and which they were trying to, having difficulty in reconciling with the circumstances outside. So he was almost saying in yesterday's last night's talk, which was really painful, that we are going to a new earth. That is, it was almost like a transition into a different dimension. So which I just couldn't come to terms with, because that was not necessary. That's what is called liberation while in the human body. See you soon.